Hey astronauts, it's me, Randy, and welcome back to Astrology Research. So I am back with another astrology video, and I wanted to give you a monthly look ahead and just give you some upcoming guidance, or I guess preview of what's going to be happening next month. So there are lots and lots of events actually happening next month. We have Pluto, which is now going in direct. It has been retrograde for quite some time now. And we also have Mars retrograding into Revati, as well as we have 2 full moons and 1 new moon. Now, I just want to talk about these moon vibrations when it comes in regards to Pluto going direct and Mars going into Revati. You can check out my Mars video for the Revati one. And when it comes to Pluto going direct, well, that's just basically the energies coming to a head. And when a planet goes retrograde, it's like it's going into a period where it really wants you to concentrate and address certain issues. Because Pluto is a planet of transformation, this mainly has to do with whatever area you've been looking to transform in your life. If you haven't built a solid foundation, then when we move forward, you're going to see the results of that, and it's not going to work in your favor. But if you have been building and striving towards something, and you have a plan, a mission, a goal, and you have really been putting in your best efforts and your best foot forward, then you're going to get the results of that, and more likely they're going to be powerful and, well, transformative like Pluto is. So this is going to be happening in whatever house that is going to be happening for you. If this is in your 2nd house, then you've probably been having a lot of constraints and issues when it comes to finances, managing things, even self-esteem and self-worth, and a sense of security and system. Like maybe you'd feel like you didn't have a good support system, and you have been working on that for the past couple of months, and we're moving forward to see just how well your plan with your support system and everything is working. But that's basically what's happening with Pluto. But let's get into these moon placements, which are the major vibrations of the month, because the moon placements really give you a feel for what's going to be the general consciousness, okay? We have the full moon happening on October 1st in Uttara Bhadrapada. Then we have the new moon happening on October 16th in Chitra. And lastly, we have another full moon happening in Bharani on Halloween, and this is a rare blue moon. It's also conjunct Uranus, and it's in Bharani. So we're getting to that in a moment. I wanted to start with the full moon that's happening on October 1st in the sign placement of Aries in the Nakshatra of Uttara Bhadrapada. And if you guys don't know or don't remember, I do go by the Western sign placements, and I use the Vedic Nakshatra tools. We just had this new moon in Uttara Phalguni, which I explained a bit in the September video and on my Instagram post, where we have Uttara Phalguni dealing with forming new habits, having to do with overconsumption of food, having to do with being competitive, wanting to be the best and obtain material values, or just being able to master a sense over the material plane. It's more about having that control or the ability to obtain material things rather so than the material things themselves. But we've been dealing with those themes up until now, and now we're moving into a place of Uttara Bhadrapada, and there's so much about this nakshatra. Well, there's a lot I could tell you about a lot of different nakshatras, but when we get to a full moon, we're at a closing period, which means we're coming to an ending with something. With Uttara Bhadrapada being the 2nd to last nakshatra placement, what I found to be is it deals with a sense of self-empowerment. It's about believing in yourself and knowing, almost in a sense, your self-worth. It's about exploring the world beyond your reality. It's about taking the initiative to do something creative and to stand on your own footing. It's like being in a position where you go from being, who's a good example of this? AOC, who I believe is Moon in Uttara Bhadrapada, where she goes from being like a waitress to being in Congress. It's just a very extreme position where it allows you to create your own reality. Her situation is something that hasn't particularly been done before, and that is what this placement of Uttara Bhadrapada is about. It's about believing in your own self. You can even look at movies starring Uttara Bhadrapada natives, Reese Witherspoon, Legally Blonde, where she goes from being like this bimbo sorority girl, everyone has this image of her who's just super extra feminine, and instead of destroying her femininity, because our culture sort of persecutes femininity in a sense of you're not allowed to be, I guess, professional as well as being extremely into your feminine nature, full glam, and also be in, you know, this position of power. Legally Blonde was in a way representing that duality and that ability to destroy the standards in which society has placed upon her, and also destroying people's perception and their realities as it pertains to how a woman should act if she were to be in Harvard and she wanted to be a lawyer. And it's about creating your own sense of purpose, structure, and goals. It really does resonate with the theme of individuality and self-worth. On a non-personal level, we can start seeing things in the news having to do with space exploration, spacecraft, detective work, you know, dealing with people and beings of other culture. This particular placement does have a connection. If you believe in aliens or something like that, this would be like a placement for that. It can just deal with things that just seem otherworldly. It's in the realm of your imagination. It's about being this architect of your own destiny. So that is what we're dealing with when we get to this full moon cycle coming up here. We're deciding which roles we want to keep for ourselves, what creative processes we want to place out in the world, what kind of formats do we want to lay. If I want to give an example, like let's say you want to be a makeup guru or something on YouTube, and a proper format for that would be like, oh, you know, you do a picture, my everyday makeup look, or you'd maybe do a video that's like my boyfriend does my makeup. Like you're adhering to the standards and the layout that has been put in front of you. When we are in an Uttara Bhadrapada, yeah, there is some of that, but it's mainly to do about breaking away from that and forming your own creative mind and structuring who you are as a person. So instead of doing a video which is popular by the masses, you create and do something which hasn't been done before. I remember when I was looking up a lot of people with this nakshatra, this one particular YouTuber, she had created this video which had to do with female menstruation, and the video is very old now, but this video boosted her into the spotlight. I know her son was in Uttara Bhadrapada, and this video boosted her into the spotlight because not only was she talking about a subject people hadn't heard about before, but it was relatable, and not only that, but it was different and it was her own creative idea. So it's not like super completely original. Obviously we all draw from the backbone of people who came before us, but it was an idea that had its own individual flair to it. So that's what Uttara Bhadrapada becomes about. When we're going through a full moon with this cycle, it's about being comfortable within your own skin, especially when we have Chiron conjuncting this full moon. I'm really bad at pronunciation. It has to do with healing yourself from past wounds, especially with Uttara Bhadrapada. People with this placement don't tend to like to talk about those past wounds and etc. They have this notion that in order to overcome the hurts of the past, it's better to be of service to other people to make sure other people don't go through the same situations you've been through. It's less about let's talk about our feelings and more about let's get the work done, let's get the job done. It becomes more about like, how can we benefit all people? This month, or at least those beginning couple of weeks for this month, we're going to be reflecting on positions in our life where we may have even failed to benefit other people around us, or to pull away from that inner guiding force, which was forcing us to in a position where we may have been straying from our true nature, or a principle which is not true to our own nature and does not service the greater good, nor does it service ourselves. I hope I'm making sense to you guys. I don't know how else to make it clear. It's just a lot goes on when we go through the Nakshatra. Let me simplify this for you guys. Wherever in your life where you feel there can be improvements made, and you know that you can make these improvements, and the only thing standing in your way is you and your insecurities and your fears, it's time to now leave that behind. Some other themes that this nakshatra deals with is natural beauty, seeking power, or like a lavish lifestyle. Not gonna lie, this nakshatra is pretty high achieving. It's not about the work. It's having to do with rejecting the roles being assigned to you. It's saying, I'm not who you think I am, I'm who I think I am. It's about seriously joking. Like, this is a very funny but also serious nakshatra placement. In some cases, reliving humiliation, okay? It's about humbling yourself and knowing your humanity. It's about knowing you are not invincible. It's about self-control. It becomes about, in the worst case, it comes about exerting your power over other people. It becomes about being able to make quick decisions in a hard moment, being able to analyze the room. It will create life-changing events in the matter of seconds. You can sort of think of that Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe, I think he has Saturn nakshatras, either Pusha or Anurata, he has one of those placements. And you just think of that scene in the movie where Hagrid goes up to him just out of nowhere. He's lived his whole life as a normal human being, and then Hagrid comes in and says, "You're a wizard, Harry." So your whole life changes in a matter of flash. It's about quick decision making and being able to be flexible and to transform, because ultimately Saturn's energy is about transformation. Now we're going to move on to the new moon, which is happening in Chitra nakshatra in the sign of Western Libra. When we get into Chitra nakshatra, when it's representing a new beginning, because this is a new moon, it becomes about wanting to have a new image for yourself in a way. One thing I noticed right away about Chitra nakshatra is the intensity of emotion, which you may not see right away. Chitra is a nakshatra that creates a lot of people, at least in my opinion, who I have found to be extremely beautiful. So part of this new beginning does become about beautification. I don't know what it is about Mars, but it does have this strong connection to beautifying things, which you wouldn't expect, but it is there. But Chitra in particular becomes about posing and photography. It's about capturing a moment, a memory in time, and creating a image to be what you want it to be. You could just think of Instagram when you think of Chitra. Mars native people dominate Instagram, especially with the bodies, the curves, the cheekbones, the pretty faces, the hairs, whatever. It becomes very glamorous. But what I found is with Chitra, it leads to very complicated family dynamics. The reason that you have Chitra people controlling their image throughout society and focusing so much on the external and making that very beautiful and presentable, it's because the inner is totally chaotic. What's that saying? Which, I mean, it's kind of sexist, but like it's a very popular belief where they say, you know, pretty girls are crazy or something like that. I mean, it's a sexist belief. If we look at the, I guess, symbolic truth to that, it does have to do with the sort of Mars dominant Nakshatra placements, where they come from this place of past trauma. When I think of this placement in Chitra, it has to do with need to hide your aggression or your passion. It's not like Mrigashira, which will just sort of lash out because it's Mars's first ruled nakshatra. So it's very open. You can think of Bill Burr. He has his son in Mrigashira, or Shia LaBeouf, who I believe has placements in Mrigashira, where the forcefulness, the passion, the anger is so upfront. But Chitra is about hiding that. It's about not throwing that emotion out there. With Chitra people, and I guess all Mars ruled people are like this, it leads to very complicated family dynamics. Oftentimes, Chitra people will have a father-like figure, it doesn't necessarily have to be their father, who will be very much like demanding or controlling, or like they run their house like somebody in the military or something like that. Like they're in charge, they're the boss, they run this. It's a very like strict parental household, or it gives a household where the father just has a very dominant energy, or like the masculine energy. It doesn't have to necessarily be the father. What Chitra people will do, they will end up focusing on the external. In their mind, they see that as their out. It's their way to get out of the situation and exert their independence, and saying goodbye to the influence of past generations. In particular with Chitra, there does seem this theme of generational gap, of rejecting or even accepting some parts of the generation that came before you, the influence that came before you. Now it's time to decide who you are and your own individuality and creating your own tradition, which is why I said it becomes about looking beyond the surface. It's not just about, you know, taking a bunch of, you know, cute Instagram pictures. It's more so about exerting control over your life, your social interactions, you becoming the influencer. So that's why you have a lot of Mars people dominating the media. For us individually, it can become about you guys wanting to exert independence within your own life and create this image, this fantasy of what exactly is that you want. Isn't that what, you know, apps like Instagram are for? It's about creating this, oh, I had this perfect meal, I have the perfect hair, I have the best cheekbones, and I have the the cutest boyfriend or something like that. You may even feel that need to cater to social expectations or feel that pressure. Or you may even feel the need to reject that and be true to yourself and just let go. There's this one Chitra person I follow, and even recently she said, I just want to be able to be myself and not have to keep editing myself for the camera. I was just like, that's very Chitra of you, because they become so anxious and they become so filled with anxiety about not able to exert that control or image or perception over their own life. There's this often pressure to keep up with tradition versus being themselves, being true to themselves. So it's a very emotional placement. So I would expect you guys to be going through these emotional turmoil situations in your own life. There may even be past events to you being triggered at this moment. Are you just thinking about it? Lots of Mars ruled placements deal with past trauma. Well, some of it, all of it can be very, very intense. And it just gives you this moment of just having flashbacks to moments where things were uncomfortable or things were hurtful or things were just maybe even abusive situations or something like that. It strikes you to your core. That is what this portion of the month becomes about, this new beginning. Not wanting to, having to subdue your passions, not wanting to have to be confined to certain roles with in society or a generation. It's really mainly to do with family more so than society. Not having to uphold this lie in front of the masses. Actually, I was just watching Paris Hilton's documentary, and she has her son in Denisha, which is a Mars ruled placement. And you know, recently she just came about her allegations from abuse within her childhood, and you see how she sort of upheld that image for so long. And I think she even said in the documentary that the reason she hadn't come out before, because she said I don't know how people react, I don't know if they will understand, this isn't my brand. That's what I said with Mars ruled nakshatras. It does to some degree become about upholding some image, upholding this sort of like, I have this perfect life. Even when I go on Mars ruled women particulars pages, there is a lot of comments having to do with, you look so perfect, or you have the perfect life, perfect house, perfect family. There may be that pressure midway in the month where you feel like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Just to go over the themes, we're going to be dealing with more efforts when it pertains to our appearance and maybe even giving off this sort of perfect dollhouse vibe. We're going to want to mask our imperfections to the masses. We may even want to break away or uphold family tradition or values, or societal values in a sense for some people. There may be, you know, more people posting on Instagram, more outlandishness, more provocative sexual behavior. Thinking about the influences that came before you and whether you agree and exerting your own independence, it becomes about your inner turmoil and past traumas and maybe emotions you haven't dealt with and triggers. And it also becomes about being able to develop as a person, going through these transformative emotional experiences and gaining new perspective and insight. So that's what we'll be dealing with midway through the month. Lastly, we have this big old full moon happening on October 31st in the sign of Taurus in the Nakshatra of Bharani. So since the last time I've done my Taurus video, I have even dived even deeper into this nakshatra placement, if that was even possible. This particular full moon is actually going to be super intense, okay? I don't normally like to say that because I don't like to incite you know, fear or confusion or upsettedness in people. I don't like giving out bad news. That's not my thing. Though I do like to be realistic. With Bharani's energy, you can sort of think of 50 Shades of Grey, and I believe the character Christian Grey, I forgot who the guy's name he's played by, Jamie Dornan. He also plays like this serial killer, which in a show that I love, hold on, The Fall. Oh my god, I love that. I've watched it like 3 times. I don't know why I love that show, but you get this nature that's just naturally aggressive and forceful. So very, you know, S&M, okay? You can think of that full moon coming up for us, and not only that, but conjunct Uranus, so it's like surprise S&M. With Bharani's energy, it's very, very much combative. Another Bharani native would be Candace Owens, and you can see how she is a very intelligent woman, which is a very common trait with Bharani in particular. They'll usually will do their best to educate themselves and to present themselves in a very polished, classy, and what's the word for it? Very refined nature. But when you speak to them, or if you interact closely with them, there's this very intense presence, okay? So I mean, you could just even watch videos of people who have this placement. I think Tekashi 6ix9ine also has this. I saw this one interview he did with, what's his name? Was it Logan Paul? And you can see every few seconds he's like, no. It's just like, no, you're wrong, okay? It's this corrective energy where it's an nakshatra where they feel the need to exert their own values and belief systems and convince the community or the masses towards their perspective. As a result, they can be very polarizing figures, but at the same time, you can't really call them ignorant of thought. This is not a placement for that, okay? This is a placement that becomes about being informed, knowing your history, knowing your past, which is why Bharani is ruled by the planet Venus, which is known as a guru. Okay, so you will find people with this placement being very refined and classy, but at the same time, they're not one to be messed with. When we have this full moon energy coming up, it's about being able to come together and share your point of view. And yeah, they're gonna say, no, you're wrong. But at the same time, this is a placement where people usually agree to disagree. When I think of what we're closing out on, what the full moon is representing, it's saying we wanna get to a place where people are just so tired of all the fighting and all the back and forth. So this is going to allow you to reflect on your own personal beliefs, on the old things that you find valuable. And another thing is with this placement, I've often, in my perception, have seen these people to be very confident and very sure of themselves, which is why they don't really have an issue standing alone. I believe Black China also has either her son in Bharani, and you can see all the backlash that she has gotten. It's actually really funny because a common theme that I've seen throughout Bharani people is people will go into the video expecting to hate them, and they always leave the video being like, well, I can kind of see their perspective. There can be something going on where this full moon happens where you have this transformative thought and you're like, you know what, actually I can kind of see why people do this, or I can kind of see why somebody thinks this way, or somebody holds this political belief, or just maybe just, or even how someone has some sort of value system, or how they spend money, or what they spend money on. It comes about perspective, but specifically perspective when it comes to your value system and, you know, what you believe is right and wrong, or how you believe a community should be run, or how a country should be run, or your own political beliefs, if you want to politicize it in a way. But it definitely becomes about the community and society. And not only that, but it can also give you a different perspective on those who hold wealth, or those who are sort of seen as prestigious or, you know, well educated. As I was saying, within your own life, this becomes about hiding the parts of your nature that is not accepted by society for some, and for other people it becomes about being more confident and reassured within who you are. It's saying, hey, do I want to be self-assured in who I am, or do I want to hide the fact that I don't know, bite my nails, or that I like to, I don't know why I thought of this, eat my hair, but I don't know why that was my first thought. I don't eat my hair, just so you know. Do you want to stick by your own principles, or do you want to conform to society and sort of hide the facts that are, hide the perceptions of you that may not be deemed acceptable, like if you were to be a smoker or something like that. You can sort of even look at this dollhouse effect, which is similar to Chitra, where they'll sort of pretend everything's okay, but instead of this being about more interdynamic family relationships, this deals with more sort of like my uncles, my cousins, my society, my world around me, and the culture. It becomes more about the culture more so than that direct influence of being like a childhood, your parents, and stuff like that, even though that is a part of it. But it just so more so becomes about how the cultural influences around you. I guess that's why Mars and Venus people do have a sort of understanding of each other. With this upcoming full moon, it becomes a lot about what small things say about something, the overall large picture. Take, for example, the song WAP, which a lot of people, conservatives on the, you know, right had an issue with. I believe, was what does this song say about us culturally? What values is this song putting out there in the world? So for somebody like Candace Owens, who is a Bharani native, that song, something like that, is going to really, she's going to have a strong opinion on. Venus ruled nakshatras focus so much on communities and values and what is being taught within communities and how it affects children, adults, teens, everything in the larger picture. So even something like a song and its influence on people, they understand how much it can affect a person's life and how much it can normalize, maybe in this case, maybe sexualization of women. That's how she and herself would see it. I don't particularly have an opinion on the song, so don't think I'm like bashing it or anything. Venusian energy becomes about things being represented symbolically. So I do want to say within your own life with this full moon, you can be looking at things symbolically and how they have an effect on your life. Like, what does your wardrobe say about you? Or what does the car you drive say about you? Like I said, this is a very like bougie sort of placement, okay? What material values do you hold and what are you presenting out there in the world? How are you adding value back into society? And how is society influencing you and your own behavior? So that's something that's going to be coming up around Halloween. We're going to be directly influenced by the culture and what it says about us, our communities, and within our lives. And not only that, but political views are going to be extremely heightened. We're going to have a lot of back and forth. It's probably not going to be all that pretty. They understand how the world around them can be very influential to who they are as a person, which is why a lot of Venusian people, like I was giving examples with the Christian Grey and the very S&M examples, which is why they try to exert control. It just really becomes about trying to obtain power, because a struggle with Venusian energy becomes about their inability to push back against society and its forces. This can be a place and time period where you're thinking about how can I exert control within my own life, which can be, you know, in the S&M way, or it could just be in, you know, controlling your diet, or it could have to do with, you know, controlling the music you listen to, the books you read, how you present yourself, your wardrobe, whatever. But it becomes about that, and not only that, but focusing on what it is that you intrinsically value in this lifetime. To summarize that, the themes become about awareness in class, society, social rules, race, different races and stuff like that. It becomes about debates, perspectives, political point of views. It becomes about the community versus big government. It becomes about being secure within yourself and not being afraid to define who you are to the world and your perspective on matters. It becomes about understanding the symbolic nature of the world around you and how the culture influences you and how you influence the culture and can affect the culture. It becomes about not being a victim of your environment, that theme of gaining control of how your environment affects you. It becomes about intellectual superiority, or just being educated in general and educating yourself. It becomes about understanding just how much children can understand, and it becomes about understanding just how little adults know. That is what I have for you guys for the themes of the month. I hope everything made sense. I tried to give some concrete examples to give you the general feel of the month. Hopefully, as I progress, I can get better, give some more information for you guys and be of use. And I do have another video that I'm currently working on, so don't think I'm just sitting here like doing nothing and being like, oh, where'd she go? She's just been gone a while. No, trust me, I'm in the middle of editing this super long video, astrological video, of course, because you know I love doing these long astrological videos for you. And I will see you guys on that video, and I'm super happy. I hope you guys will like it. It's finally gonna be some sort of semblance of good news, I hope. I hope. Okay, I'll see you next time. Au revoir.